Labour has avoided an acrimonious Commons split on the Iraq War, with only 5 of the party's MPs backing a Scottish National Party motion claiming Tony Blair misled Parliament. MPs voted by 439-70 against the SNP's calls for a further Commons probe into claims that Mr Blair's public statements contrasted with his private correspondence with the US government. Some 158 Labour MPs defied Jeremy Corbyn, who, when the Chilcot report was published, apologised for Labour's role in the Iraq War, by voting against the SNP motion. The 5 Labour MPs who voted for the motion attacking Mr Blair were left-wing anti-war MPs Dennis Skinner, Ronnie Campbell, Kelvin Hopkins, Steve Hepburn, and Paul Flynn. 6 Tories, Sir David Amess, Bob Blackman, Philip Davies, Sir Roger Gale, Philip Hollobone and Stephen McPartland, also backed the SNP, along with the Greens' Carolyn Lucas. But Mr Corbyn, John McDonnell, Diane Abbott, left-wing anti-war backbenchers in 2003 but now the party's most senior MPs, stayed away and did not vote to avoid a bitter split. Party sources told Sky News that because the debate came on a day allocated for SNP business in the Commons, colleagues will have had long-standing engagements. In a bad-tempered debate, Labour and Conservative MPs frequently clashed, with the former Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond, who opened the debate for the SNP. Labour MP Ian Austin accused Mr Salmond of staging the debate in a move to divide the Labour Party and said angrily, "And they should be treated with contempt." Gesturing to Mr Salmond and with his voice rising in fury, Mr Austin added, "Look at him laughing, as if Iraq is a subject of humour, as if it's a joke." He said the Chilcot report had found that Mr Blair did not falsify evidence, deceive cabinet or have a secret pact with the US to go to war. The truth is that, whether they like it or not, Chilcot rejected allegations that Tony Blair said one thing in public and another thing in private, said Mr Austin. "You can be for or against the war, but it's not true to say that Tony Blair lied about it." In his speech, Mr Salmond said he believed the public was grievously misled into that disastrous conflict by Mr Blair. But Cabinet Office Minister Chris Skidmore, speaking for the government, said there was no merit in further inquiries into the Iraq War and nothing in the Chilcot report that he could see which pointed to deliberate deceit to mislead Parliament. Veteran left-winger Mr Flynn, who until recently was in Mr Corbyn's shadow cabinet, said 139 Labour MPs had been courageous and voted against the Iraq War and 50 others had grave doubts. They were, in my view, bribed, bullied and bamboozled into voting the wrong way, and many of them have regretted it very much since then, he told MPs. At that point Mr Austin said it was a disgrace that Mr Flynn had used the word bribed, while other Labour MPs shouted outrageous and scandalous after Mr Flynn's comments. Mr Flynn responded, "I'm not suggesting that anyone took any money. There are such things as political bribes, with inducements and offers that we're well aware of here." Phil Wilson, who succeeded Mr Blair as MP for Sedgefield, said he was a friend and said, "It's not about the rights and wrongs of the war in Iraq. It's essentially about calling Tony Blair, and continuing to call him, a liar." Mr Blair was also defended by the former Tory Cabinet Minister Michael Gove, who said Mr Salmond didn't have the evidence to sustain his case. And Mr Gove said, "The truth is that the Chilcot report makes clear that at no stage was there a deliberate attempt to mislead this House by Tony Blair.